Hi, today is Wednesday, December 15th, 2021. It's 7:23 a.m. Here's another my daily English reading. This is from the Science Alert. Space. The moon's surface has enough oxygen to keep billions alive for 100,000 years. John Grant, The Conversation, 10 November 2021. Alongside advances in space exploration, we've recently seen much time and money invested into technologies that could allow effective space resource utilization. And at the forefront of these efforts has been a laser-sharp focus on finding the best way to produce oxygen on the moon. In October, the Australian Space Agency and NASA signed a deal to send an Australian-made rover to the moon under the Artemis program, with a goal to collect lunar rocks that could ultimately provide breathable oxygen on the moon. Although the moon does have an atmosphere, it's very thin and composed mostly of hydrogen, neon, and argon. Hydrogen. They are stable. Neon and argon are stable gas. Hydrogen, not so. It's not a sort of gaseous mixture that could sustain oxygen-dependent mammals such as humans. That said, that's good expression. That said, there is actually plenty of oxygen on the moon. It just isn't in a gaseous form. It's just not in a gaseous form. Instead, it's trapped inside regolith, the layer of rock and fine dust that covers the moon's surface. Regolith, like a monolith. Regolith. If we could extract oxygen from regolith, would it be enough to support human life on the moon? The breath of oxygen. Oxygen can be found in many of the minerals in the ground around us, and the moon is mostly made of the same rocks you will find on Earth, although with a slightly greater amount of material that came from meteors. Minerals such as silica, aluminum, and iron and magnesium oxides dominate the moon's landscape. Silica, aluminum, iron, and magnesium oxides dominate the moon's landscape. All of these minerals contain oxygen, but not in a form our lungs can access. So that's the problem. On the moon, these minerals exist in a few different forms, including hard rock, dust, gravel, and stones covering the surface. This material was resulted from the impacts of meteorites crashing into the lunar surface over countless millennia. Some people call the moon's surface layer lunar soil, but as a soil scientist, I am hesitant to use this term. Soil, as we know it, is pretty magical stuff that only occurs on Earth. It has been created by a vast array of organisms working on the soil's parent material, regolith, derived from hard rock over millions of years. The result is a matrix of minerals which were not present in the original rocks. Earth's soil is imbued with remarkable physical, chemical, and biological characteristics. Meanwhile, the materials on the moon's surface is basically regolith in its original untouched form. One substance goes in to come out. The moon's regolith is made up of approximately 45% oxygen, but that oxygen is tightly bound into the mature minerals mentioned above. In order to break apart those strong bonds, we need to put in energy. You might be familiar with this if you know about electrolysis. On Earth, this process is commonly used in manufacturing, such as to produce aluminum. An electrical current is passed through a liquid form of aluminum oxide, commonly called alumina, via electrodes to separate the aluminum from oxygen. In this case, the oxygen is produced as a byproduct. On the moon, the oxygen would be the main product and the aluminum or other metal extracted would be potentially useful byproduct. It's a pretty straightforward process, but there is a catch. It is a pretty straightforward process. It's a pretty straightforward process, but there is a catch. It's a very energy hungry. To be sustainable, it would need to be supported by solar energy or other energy sources available on the moon. Extracting oxygen from regolith would also require substantial industrial equipment. We'd need to first convert solid metal oxide into liquid form, either by applying heat or heat combined with solvents or electrolytes. We have the technology to do this on Earth, but moving this apparatus to the moon and generating enough energy to run it will be a mighty challenge. Early this year, Belgium-based startup Space Applications Services announced it was building 3 experimental reactors to improve the process of making oxygen via electrolysis. They expect to send the technology to the moon by 2025 as part of the European Space Agency's in situ resource utilization mission. What is in situ? Sounds like in situation resource utilization, ISRU mission. In situ, look it up later. How much oxygen could the moon provide? That said, that's good expression. That said, when we do manage to pull it off, how much oxygen might the moon actually deliver? Well, quite a lot, as it turns out. Quite a lot, as it turns out. If we ignore oxygen tied up in the moon's deeper hard rock material and just consider regolith, which is easily accessible on the surface, we can come up with some estimates. Each cubic meter of lunar regolith contains 1.4 tons of minerals on average, including about 630 kilograms of oxygen. NASA says humans need to breathe about 800 grams of oxygen a day to survive, so 630 kilograms oxygen would keep a person alive for about 2 years or just over. Now let's assume the average depth of regolith on the moon is about 10 meters, and that we can extract all of the oxygen from this. That means the top 100 meters of the moon's surface would provide enough oxygen to support all 8 billion people on Earth for somewhere around 100,000 years. This would also depend on how effectively we manage to extract and use the oxygen. Regardless, this figure is pretty amazing. Having said that, we do have it pretty good here on Earth, and we should do everything we can to protect the blue planet and its soil in particular, which continues to support all terrestrial life without us even trying. John Grant, lecturer in soil science, Southern Cross University. This article is republished from the conversation under a Creative Commons license. Read the original article. Having said that, terrestrial life. Having said that, quite a lot as it turns out, in situ. But there is a catch. It's a pretty straightforward process, but there's a catch. In situ, imbued aluminum, countless millennia. That said, regolith, gaseous form, thin gaseous form. Now let's look up the word in situ, okay? In situ. In its natural place or position.
In situ.
In the original or natural place or site. So right there on the moon, in situ. Archaeologists left the pottery in place. Mosaics and frescoes have been left in situ, a collection of in situ pumping engines in its natural position or place, said of a rock or fossil when found in the situation in which it was originally formed or deposited. That's good definition. In situ. Yeah, I'm interested in the geology, rockology, and the meteorites. So in situ situation, in situ, original form and in original place, untouched. So let's go over the expressions that I jotted down on my paper. Thin, gaseous form. That said, regolith, countless millennia, imbued aluminum is a pretty straightforward process, but there's a catch. In situ, quite a lot as it turns out. Having said that, terrestrial life. Let's look up the regolith to check out the pronunciation. Okay, regolith is the a layer of the planet, a layer of unconsolidated solid material covering the bedrock of a planet.
Regolith.
So it's not regolith, it's a regolith.
regolith, 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 regolith.
A blanket of unconsolidated, loose, heterogeneous superficial deposits covering solid rock. It includes dust, broken rocks, and other related materials, and is present on Earth, the Moon, Mars, some asteroids, and other terrestrial planets and moons. Regolith.
Regolith.
Okay, so that's it. I have to go to work. So bye bye. Thank you.